Help, stepbro, I'm stuck in the dryer.
Welcome back to HIVEMIND Unlimited.
And welcome to the very first episode of our new movie segment, How Did It Age? Where we revisit old movies and see how they've aged with modern context.
Oh, yes. I am so excited for this segment.
Me too. The first movie we watched is Step Brothers from 2008.
Some of you weren't even born yet.
Please comment what movies you want us to do next down in the comments section. But let's get into it. This movie came out in 2008. We were in middle school.
Really the prime age, it felt like, for this kind of movie.
I watched it so many times right after it came out, and I think I had not seen it in over 10 years.
Yeah, it had been a long time for me, too.
By the time that we watched it for this.
You watched it right as it came out. Did you see it in theaters?
No, I wasn't really a movie theater kid.
Yeah, see, I was, because there was, nothing else to do. So
Yeah.
we'd go over to Wasion and watch some stuff in theaters. But I didn't see this one in theaters. I remember going to a friend's house because it wasn't quite taboo, but my mom was like, I'm not watching that with you.
Yeah.
Watched it at a friend's house, and then I went and told my sister, you're gonna love this. And then
Yeah.
we got it for Christmas that year or something, and that DVD got burned. Watched it hundreds of times.
This was such a friend's basement movie.
Oh, yeah.
When it came out, it was like, all right, it's 9 o'clock and my parents are upstairs doing something else. Let's watch Step Brothers.
You, me, and a 12-pack of Mountain Dew, buddy. And it's over. This started, before social media had taken off to the place that it's at now, obviously. You would just sit around and quote this movie.
Yeah.
And make each other laugh by doing that. So this movie comes from Adam McKay and Judd Apatow, kind of the director production team here.
Yeah.
This is 2 years after Talladega Nights, and it's the same starring cast, production, writing, and director team. And this is kind of the style of comedy that took off at the time. It's this very improv heavy, very goofy, kind of absurdist.
Yeah.
And the chemistry between Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly really peaks at this moment.
For our generation, there were 3 comedy movie eras, and it was Adam Sandler, and then Will Ferrell, and then Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
And it was in that order, but they overlapped as well.
For sure, yeah.
But Step Brothers felt like the biggest of all of those. Of the Will Ferrell era, this was the quintessential.
It comes in 2008. I know we're just on the heels of the 2023 writers and actors strike. In 2007, there was a writer's strike. And this movie was one of the most successful that was filmed during that time.
Yeah.
And partially due to the fact that it was so much improv. You didn't need writers there when you had guys like Judd Apatow, Adam McKay, Will Ferrell, and John C. Reilly on set because they would just shoot all day and they didn't know what was going to happen. Adam McKay said, we had the engine of this idea of these two 40-something-year-olds that were going to be forced to move in together because they each lived at home. We knew we had that. We knew we had the sadistic, younger, successful brother. And we knew we had these two old, aging actors that you'd never really seen in such a comedic sense. And those were the things that made it work. Outside of that, we just made it happen. They had so much fun improvising it that the shoot took so long that Kodak sent them a case of Dom Perignon because they had used so much film that they assumed the shoot was over. And it was 6 months till they were done.
Oh, wow.
They just kept shooting, daring each other to do weirder and weirder things, thinking of crazy shit to say. It's really funny to me because I feel as I'm watching behind the scenes stuff, it's how me and you shoot. We'll shoot for 3.5 hours and a 45-minute video comes out because we're this is awkward, this is weird, but we're going to follow this riff all the way to the very end, just the bitter, vulgar end of it, and then just see if it's funny.
Yeah, take it to the edge and push it over the edge and keep what makes sense to put out to an audience.
Yeah, I absolutely love that.
So we do have a structure. We have categories for how we're going to do these videos. You'll see as we go, but first we're going to talk about what we like, and then we're going to get to how it aged and how modern context has maybe changed the way that the movie would be received. But let's start with best line. What's your favorite line when rewatching?
It's really a bottomless pit of one-liners and things that you're you've never heard in a movie before. But what I wrote down is it's the subtle line after the first sleepwalking scene when it's Mary Steenburgen and Richard Jenkins are walking into the kitchen. You can't even see them, but you just hear them. And he goes, I don't know where you learned it, but I'm still sore. And she goes, haha, there's more than where that came from. And it's just like they're like so in love, and these like lustful, almost retirees that are dealing with the weird 40-year-old sons, and they're still like happy. And he's just, the idea of him walking in the kitchen saying that is so funny.
Yeah, that's the old parents, by the way, because I know you're using the names of the actors because you're like a film buff or whatever.
Well, I'm adding the context
I
there.
know, but that's the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
For everybody out there like me who does not know the names of the people except for Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
And now you do. You're going to learn them as we go on. I also wrote down all of Catherine Hahn's lines. That's Adam Scott's wife. Derek's wife in the movie, because she is just uncorked this whole time.
Yeah.
Her first speaking scene is post John C. Reilly punching Adam Scott in the face, and he's in the car and he goes, honey, come on, Dane Cook, 20 minutes, pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And she has John C. Reilly by the collar and just is telling him that she wants him to crawl up and live inside of her vagina.
Yeah.
But my favorite line of hers comes in the Christmas dinner when they announce the divorce later on. And she tells him, first off, she spells out, let's fuck right now, and uses
like peas and carrots and stuff
on the plate. And the O for now is her wedding ring.
Yeah.
And when they go into the other room, she hits him with I couldn't eat another bite of turkey without thinking of you inside me. Come on, let's try something illegal.
Yeah, I wrote down, come on, let's try something illegal as well as one of my favorites. I'm going to go through a few and then I'll tell my favorite, the one that I picked. But I love when when the parents tell Dale and Brennan that they're going to sell the house. They're like, come on. And then Will Ferrell goes, is the house haunted? Just like that little aside line. Yeah, he's just like, is the house haunted? He's like scared that that's why they're selling the house, which I think is great. I also will say, upon revisiting, so many of these lines are quotables and have been repeated so much that the really iconic lines from this movie don't hit as hard, because I think of them in a different context, because they're almost like trite, like well-worn territory. They've taken on a new meaning by people running with them as like this iconic stepbrothers, you know, like this wedding is horse shit, or like, you don't say that. Yeah. Like, I don't like those lines because I've seen them on shirts in Target. Yeah. You know? So these are like kind of the ones that I found upon revisiting. You wrecked my fucking boat, you goon. You goon. Is so good. That's the dad yelling at them for doing boats and hoes. I wrote down when John C. Reilly's character is dragging Will Ferrell's body, he just repeats, this is like Cold Case Files. This is like Cold Case Files. He just keeps saying that. It's a great way to be like, he's worried about what he's doing because he realizes that like he thinks he's killed him. Yeah. But he's just like, this is like a TV show where this happens, is the thing that he's repeating in horror, is unbelievable. I also have when they're in the treehouse, and this is like when Derek, Adam Scott's character, is being a dick at dinner. They both go up to the treehouse, and Will Ferrell says to Dale, I still fucking hate you, but you do have a sick-ass collection of nudie mags or whatever. And Dale says, yeah, they're from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's like masturbating in a time machine. And I'm like, this came out in 2008. That's the last 3 decades.
Yeah, everything
like, that's like, they're from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's just fantastic. But the one that I picked just on delivery is Derek at dinner when they're all laughing and their dad is just obsessed with Derek. You can tell he's like in love with him or whatever. Derek goes, guilty as charged with the stories. That's the line that got me the hardest, because it's just the delivery. Yeah. Adam Scott's performance in general, this is like one of his first movies, and he's talked about it, how nervous he was. He thought he did terrible. Yeah. He said he left the set of this movie being like, I don't think I did it. And then he's like, what showed up on camera is great, but I wasn't like confident in my performance at all. Yeah. And it's so good. It is the standout performance of the entire movie for me.
Yeah, he's like a total sadist. He's just like this soul. I love in the opening wedding scene well, my younger son Derek couldn't be here because of an important fishing trip.
Yeah.
He's on a fishing trip, and it's important.
And he's like the favorite because he's successful.
Yeah.
But he's so unpleasant
Yeah.
and such an asshole, and they just love the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I like think that is such a great dynamic to have. Like the special treatment obviously goes to Brennan because he's a 40-year-old failure who lives
Right.
at home. So they make a lot of excuses for him, but they still like love and respect Derek and think he's like the golden child.
Yeah.
Even though he's a complete dick who's getting cheated on by his wife.
Yeah.
And like his kids want, like the daughter wants breast implants.
Yeah.
And she's like 9. It's like,
She's impatient with her body. The last line I have down is, it's like once the divorce is happening and they're moving out, Brennan says, I'm so pissed off at my mom. As soon as she's old enough, I'm going to put her in a home. I loved that
I'm
line.
putting her in a home.
Yeah, as soon as she's old enough.
Yeah.
Unbelievably quotable movie, just line after line. Going into it, I hadn't seen it in 10 years. I was like, oh, this isn't going to like have the same like pace. And it does kind of start off, at least the first 20 minutes until like it really gets rolling. I was like, this is so weird. And then it just unravels and this chaos ensues and everything between John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, it just hits.
See, I'm the opposite. I have it in my notes later, like what I wrote down while watching the movie was that I feel like the first 30 minutes of this movie is like every scene is like a perfect sketch comedy,
Yeah.
could live on its own. So funny, the dialogue's amazing. And then as it unravels, it gets so absurd. But it does a good job of it, like gradually ramps up. And then by the end of the movie, it's so like stupid that nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like some of those moments in there, but there are more misses in the back half than the first half. I was
Yeah.
like, this is like tight, perfect comedy movie until 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
For me.
It being such a jam-packed movie full of one-liners, the extended cut is absolutely worth a watch. There are some lines and scenes that they left out of the one that made it to theaters that are just absolutely hilarious. Like when Derek first shows up for dinner, he says to Mary Steinberger, the mom, "Oh, Mom, we drove all this way for your famous cheesecake." She's like, "Oh, I actually made a peach cobbler tonight." And he just goes, "What the fuck?" He goes, "We're missing Kenny Chesney for peach cobbler." And she's like, "Well, maybe I could make a," and he goes, "Yeah, make a couple up and we'll take them to go." And then he goes, "Great to see you," and hugs her. Like before he even hugs his own mom, he's like, "We're missing Kenny Chesney for peach cobbler." And that's such a great line.
That's great. I have not seen the extended cut.
Oh, it's awesome.
So this movie is from 2008. I will say I was expecting there to be more objectionable moments than there were.
Yeah, I agree.
And I have kind of an explanation for that, but what scene aged the worst for you?
All right, my first one gets reprised in the end, but in the beginning, it's the flashback scene where Derek and his friends boo Brennan off stage by chanting, "Brennan has a mangina."
Yeah, we have the same one.
Yeah.
And the reason being, like, there are slurs in this
Yeah.
movie that I think that they wouldn't have used
Of course.
now, obviously. I'm not, like, defending the use of them, but I think that there are no moral characters in the movie who use a slur.
Right,
It's
exactly,
like
yeah.
they're either a mean-spirited bad person or they're supposed to be like a tactless moron.
Yeah.
You know? So like John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell's characters are supposed to be idiot 40-year-olds who live at home.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like frivolous and say stupid shit. And then Derek's a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And so he uses them. But like, it's not like their mom ever says it.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you're not supposed to like the characters enough to hold them to a regard where they wouldn't say words like that, especially in 2008
Right.
when they were more common. Now, I still think if they were to remake the movie, which we'll get into later, they wouldn't have that stuff in there. But Brennan has a mangina. To me, it ages bad just because it's not funny.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just like, as a joke, it's
Yeah.
like one of the weakest ones. And I feel like it's such like an important part because it does reprise there at the end.
Yeah.
When Derek is still like got his bros and he's ganging up on Brennan to try and get him off stage, they use it again. And if it was just a tighter, better joke, like a funnier word or anything, it just ages a lot better.
Yeah, and I think at the time, it was like absurd. Like it was
Yeah.
stupid. Because Derek and his friends are coming up with it, it's supposed to be unfunny.
Yeah, like-
because they're not funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like bros, basically.
Juvenile, yeah.
But at the same time, I just feel like enough has happened in the last like 16 years since this movie's come out that like you wouldn't say that, half because of the context of like, you know, trans rights throughout that time. It's really, the conversations changed a lot where they wouldn't want to say that. But at the same time, like, it's mostly just because it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't age well because it's not funny compared to everything else in this movie, which does hit.
The second scene that I have kind of ages the worst is just a moment inside of one of my favorite scenes, is when Derek is showing the house to sell it. And he brings the black couple in, and he is just in total code switching mode.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a nice lawn where you and your homies can hang out. He's like, this is how I always talk.
Yeah, he's like,
just,
you and your homeboy can hang out here. And then he's like, this is, he goes, we got a real fresh entryway here. It's not, it's like, I know he's supposed to be a fucking dick.
And it works for that, but it's just like, again, it just comes back to that it wasn't funny. It didn't like add anything to it for me. I guess
think it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Like,
I'm on the edge about that one.
It's funny in the way, because I feel like it's making fun of the like buttoned up white guy who's trying to appeal. Like, the joke is not at all about the black people in that scene.
Right, of course.
You know, it's about Derek being a dick. And I feel like that's why it still works for me, but I understand it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's a weird scene.
Yeah, and that parlays just right into that being one of my favorite scenes, is when he's first showing the house and Brennan pulls up with the lawnmower in full Nazi regalia and is like, hey neighbors, if you ever need any fertilizer, I got a lot of it. And you're like, oh my God. Like, that's when it starts to really go over the edge. You're like, holy smokes.
And then he says, Sprechen Sie Dick.
Yeah.
And then they do there's a KKK neighbor. John C. Reilly does that. It toes the line, but it still holds up. Like, it's so funny. It's so out there and absurd and crazy.
Yeah, that's almost like Mel Brooks, like.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, holy smokes. It's throwing the most like offensive things in your face as a joke.
Yeah, yeah. I also will say the other line that I brought up was in Boats and Hoes. There's a line that I'm not going to repeat.
Where they ran out of gas.
Yeah, where they run out of gas.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, they wouldn't say that now.
Yeah,
you can't say that. Because that also doesn't feel like there's enough context around it for it to be any sort of commentary.
No.
It feels like a Lonely Island thing, and it's just like, they thought that was a funny line. Not like... any other commentary.
Hey, this is, only 7 years removed.
Oh no, totally.
So
yeah. Totally.
Relations were not good.
No, it was a weird time for racism against people from the Middle East.
Oh, such an easy time to pass away Islamophobia, like in film, especially comedy. It was
absolutely,
just like,
yeah. So
it's par for the course.
Yeah. So that one did not age well, but overall, I think Brennan Has a Mangina just didn't make me laugh. I just wish it was something else.
I have tons of scenes that I really loved in this. I guess I'll kind of narrow it down and just pick one at random here at the end, because I do love all these scenes. I love when Brennan first sings for Dale, the climax of that moment, and the song he chooses, and just like he's crying. He has an out-of-body experience seeing himself. That moment's unbelievable for me, and that's like we can do this. We can start Prestige worldwide.
Yep.
He's like, you got that. I got everything else. Unbelievable. Boats and Hoes as a scene, minus the one line. That scene is so funny. Why is there a projector in the restaurant? They're at a restaurant.
Why do they have mics that are plugged in?
Check.
Like, why are they amplified in this restaurant? It makes zero sense at all.
Sidebar on that scene. Adam Scott's unwillingness to give up the golf club prop comedy.
Yeah.
Say hello to my little friend. He goes, bomb it down the fairway, bitches. It's every time it cuts back to him, he's doing something with the golf club.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many takes there are of that. Just him doing different things. The burying Dale scene. Once Dale's dragging Brennan, and Brennan comes out and says he was faking being dead, hits him with the shovel and starts throwing dirt on him, and Dale goes, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm burying you. Just let the dirt shower over you. That whole scene is so sadistic. He comes back like a zombie.
Yeah.
And then they fight in the backyard till they fall asleep. As they're wrestling, you can hear them getting more and more tired. And they're like grabbing each other's legs, and then they just fall asleep. It's like, what the hell? The 80s Joel, Horatio Sands, is just perfect.
Yeah.
What a niche joke that just works really well. At the Catalina wine mixer, of course, you'd have an 80s Joel cover band.
Who's mad that people are yelling Piano Man.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's fantastic.
And he loses it quick. Like,
Oh, yeah.
You and your skank hooker wife, get out of here. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. I was surprised about the dinosaur scene.
Yeah.
Because people like bring that up a lot, like don't lose your dinosaur or whatever. I thought I was gonna like cringe at that scene. It's like the moment the movie changed to me, because the whole movie, they're like these dim-witted idiots and they do these irrational things and their parents just can't handle it, don't rationalize it at all. They're playing the straight man, but in like a really, really elevated way where they are like just literally any rational person in the room with these two is going to be like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Why are you like this?
The mom's a little, Mary Steinberger's like a little sweet the whole time.
Yeah.
And Richard Jenkins is constantly like, he wants to sail and be retired.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then it flips completely in this scene in a way that was like masterful.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, they've spent, by the way, 6 months for some reason they have figured out their entire lives. They're like it's like Christmas goes wrong, and then in the summer he's throwing the Catalina wine mixer. They're like completely fine. So much has changed. It's outrageous.
He had to sell his night vision goggles to afford something else. They're getting health care. I love the scene when Will Ferrell walks out of like the Costco with a bunch of toilet paper and just goes,
yeah, like that's his first win, and then it all keeps building to this place, Catalina wine mixer.
Yep.
But then in that scene, like they're the rational ones.
Yeah.
While Dr. Dobek just all of a sudden tells them that when he was a kid, he wanted to be a dinosaur, like as a job. It's a play on like, you've seen Accepted?
Yeah.
Where like Justin Long's character in that at the assembly kind of points to people like, what did you want to be?
Yeah.
And like, oh, jazz violinist. You know, I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to be a poet.
Everybody sets their childhood dream aside and assumes that they'll come back to it once they get enough money.
And this is like the absurdist take on that, but it's just a dinosaur. And they totally are like, how is that a skill? Like, what do you mean you're going to be a like, this doesn't make any sense.
See, I lost it.
And he's just like, I lost it. I thought I was going to come back. He's like, I'll go to medical school. I'll become a doctor. I'll do that for a little bit. And then back to my true calling, which is to be a dinosaur.
Yeah, even John C. Reilly's like, you're a fucking human.
Like you can't be a dinosaur. And so I just love that it completely flips the two things. And that's him trying to be like, I'm sick of these like straight-laced versions of them. I want them to go back to being just chaos agents.
Yeah,
you know?
That is a great moment.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah, he's so disappointed in seeing them conform to society.
Yeah.
And that's all he wants the whole time. And then when he finally sees it, he even tells Mary Steinberger earlier in that scene, like, I think Brennan put this whole thing on to get us back together. Yeah. And she's like, I
need a minute.
Yeah, I need to go cry.
Yeah. As for Age the Best, I do pick the dinosaur scene because I expected it to age badly because it's so like well-worn territory. People talk about it all the time. I was so impressed by the way they were able to flip the script at that part.
Broadly, the Catalina wine mixer is my favorite just as a total because the sneaky flashbacks in it, once Brennan starts singing Ave Maria, and then like...
Is that what he's... I don't think he's singing...
Yeah, he's singing Ave Maria, isn't he?
I don't think it's Ave Maria.
Maybe it's not.
It's not. It's some other song.
Adam Scott has the flashback to childhood where they're flying the kite.
Oh, yeah. That part is so funny.
Oh, my God. All those flashbacks hit so hard. And I thought going into that they were going to be stupid. And as that scene's like starting, I'm like, here it comes. And then they were just, you're the best big brother ever, Brennan. And then the lumberjack scene with Brennan and his psychologist who he's in love with. She like hops off the boat and hears him singing and is having a session. And he just knocks down the door and he said, I traveled 500 miles to give you my seed.
That's the other thing I love that they do in this movie is they like talk like they're telling an old tale like all the time. Like they do that to each other. Like John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell will just be like, my translucent steed.
Yes.
Like, so strange.
Yeah. Catalina wine mixer as a scene, definitely my favorite, the one that aged the best. Maybe specifically from the whole scene, the 80s Joel bit. Yeah. It's just, that is so funny. I feel like we both kind of already talked about it, but what do you got to say?
Yeah, I don't think they would use slurs. It just doesn't make sense for a movie this big to be doing that these days.
$65 million budget, they're not saying it.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. It's not going to pass the boardroom.
No.
But at the same time, I just think comedy has changed. I think if this came out today, it would be just as successful. I think it still works all the way, but they're just not making movies like this anymore.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this, like, it goes to show in the last 10 years, Adam McKay has made The Big Short, Vice, and Don't Look Up. He's even changed. He's pivoted from, like, the absurdist comedy, and it kind of, like, ends after, like, The Other Guys. And The Campaign is really, like, the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that movie's still good, but that was, like, 2010, and this vibe just kind of, like, fell off a cliff.
Those eras that I talked about earlier, like Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen, there wasn't one after that.
No, you don't have like the lead man comedy. It's more of like a troupe.
Yeah, but there aren't like big comedy movies that same way anymore.
That's true.
And I feel like that there will be a resurgence. There always is. I think this decade will have that. It's just the 20-year trend cycle. Yeah. I wonder what that's going to look like.
Female driven.
Definitely. But where are they going to come from? You know, is it like the internet sketch comedy groups are going to get the budget to do a movie that's this big, reaches a lot of people, and is actually funny without pressing the buttons that people have nowadays? And that's not an argument against the buttons. I think like it's definitely a good thing that we've talked culturally about how these things are, you know, impact discourse and make people think about who they're making jokes about. I think that's all a good thing. I just think nobody's figured out how to be funny without towing the line.
Yeah, of course.
In recent years, at least on a big budget movie scale. So I think about, will Tim Robinson make a movie or be in a movie that is of this caliber? You know, is it going to be some of the old guard coming back to do more, or they usher in the new guys?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine where a big blockbuster comedy that's actually good would come from.
Yeah, and we're also not 14 again, and we never will be. And so, like, the way we receive a big budget comedy is now going to be from, like, a 30-year-old who likes French movies. Like, I have a different way of, like, watching movies now where, like, obviously I can still have laughs.
They could do it in French.
That would be fucking hilarious.
Not for me.
Yeah, well,
That'd
whatever.
be bullshit. And I'm a 30-year-old who doesn't like French movies.
But, like,
I like funny movies.
Our minds just change a little bit. I think the
French
way
people can be funny. I'm not saying that French people can't be funny.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I mean, it's hard for me to tell when they're being funny if they're speaking French.
For me specifically, I thought about this question a little more literally. Like, if we had to remake it, what would really change? And I think the biggest dynamic that changes here is that in 2008, a 40-year-old who lives at home, has the drums, loves Star Wars, thinks night vision and kung fu are cool. And I think, like, the hobbies of the still at home 40-year-old now, those would be the dynamics in this comedy that would change the most. You'd have
more
like,
video games.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
You'd have like this big hairy Reddit, Discord mod kind of gaming freakazoid.
Or like politics obsessed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You'd have like the kind of like in his cave thinking he's smarter than everybody, but unable to function in human society in a way that will be advantageous for his own life.
Right.
You have that. Or you have like the woman who never figured it out, you know, who never liked any of the jobs and just went from job to job year by year and then just kind of tapered off.
Like a Disney adult.
Yeah. a huge Taylor Swift fan.
Oh, man.
Like,
massive.
you could have that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, there are archetypes now that exist that could fit this.
Yeah, those were the fun things for me to think of. It's like, what is the stay-at-home 40-year-old kid like today versus then?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting and would still work because those things, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, that's still like a safe thing to poke fun at is the person who like can't manage to move out of their parents' house.
Totally. And there's more of those people than ever.
Yeah, because rent is high.
And 2008 was a perfect time for this movie to come out too, because there were a bunch of people fearing at that moment that they were going to become these guys.
Yeah.
You know, and now there's the same thing. It's really, really hard with money nowadays, and it's really hard to like get on your feet in your 20s, let alone,
Yeah.
you know, once you get to your 30s, the pressure is even more.
Exactly.
You know, I think of Derek nowadays, it's like, that's like the crypto guy.
The finance guy.
He like loves Gary Vee,
Yep.
you know, he might be a Joe Rogan guy.
Totally.
Like, you have those archetypes as well. And then you have the parents who like, they want to retire and do some of those same things.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with like the chronically online video game stay-at-home kid who they want to believe can make something of themselves, or the kid is always like, I'm on the heels of making something of myself, much like they are. They think that they've got these hidden talents that once the world sees them, they'll be the biggest thing ever. All of the themes of the movie still exist. It would be fun to see something similar, but not like a remake. I don't think they should do like a Step Brothers 2.
No, they toyed with that idea for a long time, and it was like written, not written. They wanted to shoot it, and like all these dodgy interviews like years after, because this movie did meet like mixed reviews when it came out. It wasn't like it was like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was like a 58, 60%, and people were like, this is kind of messed up. But just as time went on, it grossed a ton of money. It became like the cult favorite and just like became a very beloved movie, but met mixed reviews. And it was in those following years of it becoming so beloved that every question was, when's Step Brothers 2 coming out? And they like, Adam McKay said there's definitely more there. We could tell more, but then, you know, John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell went on to do other things as well. They became much more successful, and Adam McKay eventually started making very serious things. And Will Ferrell and Adam McKay worked together on Succession. They're both producers and directors on that.
Yeah.
So like they've come a long way, and that's never getting dug up.
But come a long way is subjective, because to me, this is like peak.
Yeah, for sure.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I have an interesting note here.
Okay.
Mary Steenburgen, who I've been saying Steinberger this whole time, whatever. It's a ridiculous last name. Miss Mary, she had a little surgery in 2007, the year before this movie came out, where she had to go under a little anesthesia. When she came out of that anesthesia, she knew music.
What?
She claimed to hear songs and music in her head, full songs, original pieces of music. So then she takes music lessons so she can translate what she's hearing. And since then has 50 songwriting credits and has been nominated for original pieces of music that she has written, worked with artists in Nashville, and signed a publishing deal with Universal Music.
She never did music before this? Went under anesthesia
and woke up a musician. I was just reading the Wikipedias of all the actors in this, and I could not do this video without making that known. The year before Step Brothers came out, she got anesthesia music. They gave it to her in a needle.
I need to call my doctor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Isn't that awesome?
I am missing out, because I feel like maybe I'm one session of going under away from working with Bruno Mars. That is wild. That's a wild fact.
And in like just 5 years, by 2013, she had 50 songwriting credits. Like made music.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Somebody needs to hit me in the head or whatever.
Yeah, donk me. I want to wake up speaking Portuguese and knowing how to salsa dance or something. God.
I want somebody to push me down a flight of stairs so I can understand how to fix my car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I open the hood and I have no idea what's going on, but I get up from that. I'm like, oh, and then I look, I'm like, oh, well, there's the carburetor. That seems to be the culprit. This was the hardest thing.
Oh, by far.
Trying to recast this movie.
Yeah.
The only thing I came up with, literally, at all, was that if they were to do a new age version of it, I feel like Will Angus and Liam McCullough from Almost Friday / Friday Beers.
Yeah.
They got a good, like, duo chemistry. They're, like, just strange looking enough that they could pull it off. They're not, like, classic hot guys.
Yeah.
They are, like, I'm not saying they're bad looking.
You are. Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Say it.
One of them has curly hair, which both Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly
True.
have. But I was saying Will Angus would be a good, like, Will Ferrell character, and then Liam McCullough would be kind of like the John C. Reilly.
I could see that.
Or it could be the other way around.
Doesn't matter.
I haven't figured it out. But they have enough of that weird chemistry, and I know so much of this feels like sketch comedy that I can just imagine them building something like that. They're so funny together and so funny individually that maybe something like that could work. But I can't think of a recast like as their actual, like the ages of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this as well. I think everyone is so perfect for their roles, but I recasted Derek and his wife. I said Ryan Reynolds and Amy Adams. as those two.
Oh, easy. That's a good.
Because
yeah.
Adam McKay works with Amy Adams later on, and Ryan Reynolds is like in that era for sure as like the hot dickhead. Like he could be a sadist, awful, younger, successful brother, and
Yeah.
Amy Adams as like she's like trapped in this marriage that she hates, and she's just like horny for John C. Reilly.
She's so good at that
Yeah.
exact thing. And then he also did that in a lot of movies. Like
Yeah.
that thing where he's like the sniveling idiot asshole.
And then what's the one where he goes back to his hometown with the movie star and he ends up like dating his high school sweetheart? He's like the successful older brother in that, but people will know what I'm talking about. It's like a Christmas rom-com.
Van Wilder.
Yeah, no. But
Are
yeah.
you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Damn.
I think that would be a decent recast, but again, I don't think it makes it better. Catherine Hahn's like ridiculous in this, and Adam Scott's perfect too.
Yeah.
The parents untouchable for me. When he loses it at the end, he goes when he's on top of the stairs, it's insane. And they push him down, or he rolls down the stairs and breaks the same spot that they did. It's beautiful. It's beautiful cinema.
I also got some like Shane Gillis isms out of John C. Reilly's character. At moments when
Yeah.
he's speaking, I'm like, Shane Gillis could do something in this vein.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't recast it.
Oh no.
No. Now, obviously, most iconic is A-Punk Vampire Weekend.
Such a great opener.
It's perfect for that opener.
It really is.
The thing about this one is I do feel like there are movies that the soundtrack all like works together and it feels like one mood is spread across the whole movie. This is like they picked songs for specific moments that have nothing to do with each other. So you have
Yeah.
like the Family Bible, John Bryan song.
My favorite moment. That's like my favorite song moment in it as the divorce is happening.
Yeah.
Who gets the Family Bible?
'Cause
It's
it
just so
doesn't-
on the nose.
It doesn't even need to be. That's what I
No.
mean. It doesn't need to be that. It's like so on the nose. They do it twice.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
When two grown-ups lose heart.
You obviously have the 80s Joel stuff. You have Ice Ice Baby and Under Pressure.
Yep.
Which is hilarious because they're the same song. And then you have LCD Sound System, which fits with kind of like A-Punk Vampire Weekend. It had some new indie stuff that gave it
Yeah.
a little bit of a, an edgier, campier feel.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the Judd Apatow kind of influence that
Totally.
you see here. Kind of this sleeker indie stuff in there.
Yeah, you got Hall & Oates,
Yep.
that moment. Like, it just feels like the songs are kind of cherry-picked for their moment.
Besides the indie stuff, they are so like exemplary.
Exemplary.
Exemplary of
Exemplary. Yeah.
exemplary. Besides the indie stuff, all the other songs are so like exemplary of the scene that's happening.
We're going to just act like you said that normal?
I love the soundtrack though. It's
yeah,
good.
Yeah, me too.
To use songs as bits or like to elevate the joke that's happening
Yeah.
is just great. I
Yeah.
love when that happens. It's like it's all set up, the actors are doing it, and then the song comes on and it makes it even funnier. That's like the best thing a soundtrack can do in a comedy.
It's like a fine soundtrack to me,
Yeah.
though. It's like they did a good job, but it's nothing that like elevates it up except for the A-Punk moment because that really did like make that song a thing.
And then they did make an original song for this.
Oh, that's true.
And then the Will Ferrell actually performing at the end. The behind the scenes of that is just like Will doesn't know how to not take anything so serious. So like when they shot that scene, people didn't know whether to laugh or cry because it like is a pretty damn good performance.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, this is so funny, but it's really good.
I was going to ask that actually about the Sweet Child of Mine scene.
No way.
I looked it up and it says performed by Adam Scott, Catherine Hahn, and the two kids' names.
I'm going to save it with a solo. How I'm Derek. I can sing high.
That's like, it sounds
Flat.
It's
So flat.
It sounds outrageous, though,
Yeah.
how good it is. When he's singing it, then I'm like, oh, they just hired somebody, whatever.
Actors can sing.
If so, uncredited. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Really good.
That scene is so goddamn funny.
It sets him up as like just the psychopath family.
Yeah.
$1,200 a week for vocal lessons, and this is what I get. And then he almost crashes when he's soloing. I have to whip the car back.
Before we get into the next section, I did want to talk quickly about the aesthetic of this movie. I did not remember it being so indie and campy in like the type.
Yeah.
Like, it's all written like it's like Juno, Napoleon Dynamite, like that tall handwritten text.
Yeah.
Is like how the credits are. It's very like not what I remembered it, because it feels such like a blockbuster comedy. They wanted this to feel like small. It's shot on film. It's like supposed to be kind of cute in a way.
Yeah. And I still think at the time, because even compared to like Talladega Nights, which has like big budget elements to it. There's race cars, there's fires, there's crashes, there's, you know, all these things going on. This has like nothing happening in it.
Right.
And I think that's like a part of its soul, is like very much it wants to be this like strange, absurdist, improv, very indie kind of comedy.
The thing that really nails that home for me is the wardrobe.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
It's so good. It's so perfect. So I actually pulled up just shirts that John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell wear in this movie that just take it to the next level for me.
The Pablo Cruz.
Pablo Cruz, but it's like a baseball shirt, the ones that only go to here. It's so like 2008, but also so like 80s, 70s, and 80s. I love that one. We get the vintage Star Wars Yoda shirt.
Yeah, the giant. This is selling for $180 in streetwear stores now.
Yeah, and I saw it. Like, people literally search for this shirt. They're like, John C. Reilly's stepbrother's Yoda shirt. People try to find this exact shirt.
Unbelievable here.
The unicorn shirt.
Yeah.
It's so unbelievable. I wish there was actually more of this style.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie that Will Ferrell like wears.
This is like the Napoleon Dynamite, like rural white trash kind of weird shirt.
And it's, for some reason, it's so perfect that he's wearing this while he just got beat up and has like a black eye.
Yeah.
And then he sings.
Yeah, it makes him like this weird, sensitive little kid.
Yeah. Oh, we got this one. Any shirt that has those, just like the whatever the bands are, it reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite, that whole era, but the rainbow with the hand on it.
It's almost like a YMCA shirt or something, or like a charity.
It's hand me down. And I'm like, you're 40. Like, there's no like
no one handing you down anything.
Was he wearing the same like size when he was a child? Like, why does he have these shirts?
Yeah, it's great intention though to make them feel like kids, to dress them like this the whole time, because then the stark imagery of them in suits later on is so funny.
Yeah, totally. Just life's a beach.
Life is a beach when he's in therapy.
It's just not what a grown man wears.
Says, I'm sorry, angel face. Don't call me that.
Oh, here's a twofer. The shirt that John C. Reilly's wearing here is actually an amazing shirt.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the Converse hanging around the neck. I saw people looking for this one too, because I Googled it, and there are people trying to find this shirt everywhere. It's like such a cool shirt. And then just the vintage Mountain Dew.
Classic Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Classic Mountain Dew shirt.
He's wearing a shirt that says Milford, Pennsylvania, which...
for no good reason. They're in California.
I love it. I love it so much. And then he's wearing the Chewbacca mask. But this whole getup right here, this pose, the way he's sitting, the short blue shorts, Milford, Pennsylvania shirt, and a Chewbacca mask, it made me laugh out loud before anything happened in this scene, because his legs,
just
like,
vibing.
it's just not. He's talking to him with his arms back here in a Chewbacca mask, and it's so normal to both of them that this is happening.
Yeah.
And they think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just lounging.
He's like flexing.
So cool.
Yeah, he's flexing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And then to bring it back, the mask comes back 2 more times.
Yep.
One while he's doing taxes, and he has to take it off because he can't see through the hair, and it's his moment of becoming an adult.
Yeah.
He's like filling out a 1099. And then at the end, when he puts it back on in the new treehouse that is the ship.
Yep.
And Will Ferrell has one, and it's like a plastic Halloween one, and they both put it on, and they're like, Chewbacca mask. And Will Ferrell pulls it up and is like, it's okay, mine's not movie quality. He makes a note of it.
I love that moment. And then lastly here,
yeah,
when he writes, I love crystal meth on the back of his shirt. It's so awesome.
Hilarious prank right there.
And people sell shirts, by the way, that have this graphic on the front of a shirt.
Of course.
So. 100%, if you are a kid right now and you've never gone back and seen this movie, please do it. And I'm curious to know in the comment section, if you are younger, does this movie work for you? Because I am blinded by nostalgia. I saw this movie. I remember it. I love the characters, all of that. Does it work to somebody who has no reference for it? I would be very curious to see that.
Yeah.
And also to see why you watched up to this point in this. If you haven't seen it, you must really like HIVEMIND. If you are this far in and you haven't seen the movie at all and you're listening to me say this.
Yeah.
But if you saw it recently or you saw that this video popped up and decided to watch it so that you could watch this, I would love to hear your opinion because I have no idea what that looks like to somebody who's, 14 right now.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. And kind of from my point of view, I'd recommend it to someone who does have that nostalgia for it and hasn't revisited it in 10 years or something.
Totally.
It's just as good as it was.
Yeah.
It really, really stood up. And we're going to get into movies later on in this series that aren't. For sure.
Totally. I expected this not to really. I thought it was a good one because there was going to be objectionable stuff and then like some of it holds up. And it just like happened to be one that does really stand.
It's really great.
And stand the test of time.
All those actors and everybody involved in this was like the real deal. This wasn't like a stuck in its time kind of one-off gag. It was like, oh, these people, this is just was their start. He's finally doing it.
Yep.
This is the launch, the hard launch of Riley Savage's Letterboxd. Have you followed me?
I have not yet.
Oh, what do I got to do?
It's a real wait and see thing for me.
All right.
But this is also the hard launch of my new personality, which will be Movie Snob.
Yes.
I can't wait to talk down on people for their opinions on subjective art.
There you go, man.
But here's my Letterboxd review. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, starting off big.
And I just did one sentence here.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be long.
A lot of art films went over my head when I was younger, but I think I get it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still trying to get your own jokes off.
Not a joke.
Right, got it.
It's a new personality.
I'm happy you're here.
Yeah.
I'm happy you've joined us.
Yeah.
On the greatest social media platform that has ever existed.
YouTube?
Letterboxd.
Oh, I thought you meant the video. Sorry.
I gave it a 3.5. A little shy of a 4. It felt weird putting it into the category with other movies I gave a 4, and I don't know. I'm not going to expound on it. I gave it a 3.5, and my review was this movie aged better than me.
Wow.
Because it did, man.
I give your review a 4 out of 5 as well.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for your review because I think that was it was poignant.
Thank you, man.
Poignant.
Yeah,
Poignant.
Roger Ebert or whatever, the greatest movie critic of all time.
Oh.
God rest his soul. I think he gave it a 1.5 and was very wordy, but said crude.
Roger
crude.
Egbert.
Yeah.
I think was his name. We had a great time watching this movie. I can't wait to watch more movies together.
I know.
I can't wait to get into ones that didn't age well.
Rip them apart.
And also get into other ones that did. I'm happy to revisit movies that I have seen in the past and try to, approach them with modern context and see what we can get out of it.
For sure.
Oh, because I'm going to be a movie snob now, I did keep a list of plot holes as we were watching.
Go ahead.
I only came up with 3, which is...
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good in terms of the movies I've seen.
I guess we don't really know. It's our first video, so...
1, how did Dale and Brennan not meet before the parents got married?
I guess they didn't live together. So the parents were going on dates.
No, totally. But, they had to plan a whole wedding. They decide to meet the day that they're moving in. They're like, we're not going to introduce them to each other until we pull up on the lawn with a moving truck. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I understand that it
has to be that. Yeah.
It services the movie.
Yeah.
But I thought about it. It is a plot hole. It would never happen.
Of course, yeah.
It's crazy. 2, they live in this nice house, which you get an outside view of. There are at least 10 windows on the front of this house, and they have to share a room?
Right, because Dale he won't take his drums out of the office.
I know, but that's 2 rooms. There are more rooms in this house.
Hey, man.
And they decided 2 twin beds for the 40-year-olds.
But that is addressed why they have to share the room, and it is because of the drums. That's addressed at
dinner. I know,
dinner.
but it doesn't take care of the other 6 empty rooms in the house.
Medical supplies. Cochlear implants or whatever.
Cochlear implants? Can you get those?
Yeah, you heard me.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
That's not a plot hole. What's your last one?
Why does Dale go out with zombie makeup on to the mall? without looking in the mirror.
Yeah, that was weird.
Because
That's just like a...
You know, Brennan puts zombie makeup on.
He also does a
on his
wonderful
sleep.
job.
Yeah, it's awesome. It looks like special effects makeup. Don't know how he does it.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, Dale's at the mall, like sipping a smoothie, and people are like freaking out when they see him. I'm like, he had to look in the mirror before he went to the mall.
Nope, he just walks right out of the house.
Yeah, I guess. So those are my 3 plot holes. Let me know if you picked up on any, if you did a rewatch with us.
No plot holes for me, but I will say, just in my behind-the-scenes research, Adam McKay is obsessed with sleepwalking and the studies of it. So, like, he really forced the bit in there of, like, don't wake him up, and that, like, just satisfied him. It was just like he's just obsessed with sleepwalking and the myth around waking people up and how people have their little calling cards, the purse in the fridge, the pillows in the oven.
Yeah.
I just think that's a funny sidebar.
That's where I learned that you don't wake a sleepwalker, was from this movie.
Yeah, but it is kind of a myth.
I know, totally. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
that's where I had that piece of information with me all the time.
Oh, he did that to
this movie.
Did that to millions of people.
Yeah, millions of people legitimately think you shouldn't wake up somebody when they're sleepwalking. And as someone who has a little brother who sleepwalked, that one is that word.
Yeah, whatever.
Sleepwalked, sleptwalked.
Sleepwalker.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He was a sleepwalker. There you go.
Yeah.
He was a skinwalker too. He survived a lot of things he shouldn't have. He was a sleepwalker and he had his calling cards, but you could wake him up and he would just go pee and go back to sleep.
Yep.
That's like literally what would happen. His calling card was carrying a slipper like a football.
That's awesome. Ball security.
And he would say the monkeys are attacking.
Yeah.
That's one of his things that he would say
The
to my
clown
parents.
has no penis.
Oh, yeah, that's not, yeah, whatever. We could talk about this movie forever. It was so fun to revisit this movie, and we're so excited to revisit more. Comment movies you want us to do. We want to treat this kind of like a movie club. So on Patreon, when we decide which movie we're doing next in this series, we will post it so that you guys can watch it or rewatch it.
Yeah.
And then
Join us
on the journey, and then you'll see the video. The video will come out. Let us know if you like this series, and let us know if you're a movie buff down in the comments. Our Letterboxds will be linked in the description. Follow us there. We're excited to see what you guys say down in the comments.
Love y'all.
This has been HIVEMIND Unlimited, and this was the first episode of How Did It Age? We'll see you in the next one. Bye!